Hey folks, welcome to part two of being positive about each team in the NHL as we look at the playoff race. There's the color code on your left there for how the coloring works. Basically, the deeper the color, the higher to the top or to the bottom they are. On the left column is for all the stats that aren't odds, being what place they are. So if they're first, they're this color. If they're second or third, that color. And then in here is their playoff odds, whether they've clinched it, which isn't the case in the Western Conference yet. Their odds according to whichever stat I'm using, and so down to eliminated, which is a case in the Western Conference. No teams in the Western Conference have clinched the playoffs yet, but four teams have already been eliminated, being Arizona, Anaheim, Chicago, and San Jose. But just like Columbus in the Eastern Conference video, we're still going to be positive about them. We're going to be positive about everybody here today. And if you haven't watched the previous video, one, I invite you to, because I think I did a great job on it. And two, the numbers up here, I'm not going to look too much at, but they're here for your viewing pleasure, is their points percentage, goals for per game, goals against per game, their Fenwick for percentage, so their ability to control shots, their record in their last 10, their odds via money puck, and playoff odds via money puck, and playoff odds via hockey reference. So let's get right into it. And this is we begin with Vancouver, where there isn't really too much shortage of positivity. There's still some concerns because of Vancouver's history. You know, this isn't like they've been a playoff team for the last couple of years, or that when they are, they don't go all the way. But in view of the last couple of years, the fact that so much is going well has to be a thumbs up. And it's not like they're limping to the playoffs either. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They lead the conference in points percentage, which is why we're starting with them. And they're likely to become the next team to clinch the playoffs. They'd be the second to do so after the Rangers did last night, I believe, or the night before. Um, so, yeah, so much to put your thumbs up for the Vancouver Canucks. It's hard to really pick out one thing to be positive about, but I'm going to focus on because my rules is that I want it to be something to focus on. There's no limit to the amount of positive things I can say, but I limit myself to one positive thing to really focus on. And for Vancouver, which I'm just choosing right off the top of my head, I didn't pre-record and say, okay, who am I going to choose? For me, it has to be Quinn Hughes because we knew Elias Pettersson was really, really good. We knew JT Miller was really, really good. A lot of Canucks fans knew Boeser was pretty good, though this is a new heights for him, but still good on him. And we knew Demko was very good, though he's never really had a Vezina caliber season yet. But I want to focus on Quinn Hughes because even though we knew he was capable of this is kind of new territory for Vancouver Canucks. They've never really had a defenseman who is so efficient with distributing the puck as Quinn Hughes in their entire history. They've had good offensive defensemen. A lot of those guys were usually pretty good two-way. And Quinn Hughes' defense is underrated. He's not really a penalty killer, but he's still very good on defense, so that's good. You're not really worrying about him on the defensive end too much either. He's very smart there. But again, this is new territory for Vancouver, and just okay, we have a elite superstar offensive player on the blue line, and this is the first time in Canucks NHL history that that's the case. As seen by Quinn Hughes climbing up the ranks in points, it's not long before he'll be second in points among a defenseman for the Vancouver Canucks. I believe Oland is first. Don't quote me on that. It's probably a Swede. Anyways, next is the Dallas Stars, who are an amazing 8-2-0 in their last 10. Yet another incredible performance for the Stars in terms of the regular season, because where it matters is the postseason, but which we're getting into and all that kind of stuff. But I think one clear positive is actually let's go with Harley. I was thinking about mentioning Joe Pavelski's age. We've kind of become an annual tradition at that point. So it was just like, yeah, I expect to say how awesome he is at 50 years old 10 years from now. But when we get there, Hartley's emergence, particularly during Heiskan's injury, is a very welcome. I don't know if I'm going to call it a surprise, but close. If not a surprise, it's close to a surprise for the Dallas Stars. You need all the help you can get, especially in the case of injuries. You hope Heiskanen doesn't get injured, but at least if he does, you have a guy who isn't going to step up to the same extent, but isn't going to be useless. He's going to be very capable in Thomas Hartley. Next is Colorado Avalanche. 8-2-0 is great for the Stars, but what's even better is being 9-1-0 in their last 10. The Avalanche are heating up at just the perfect time to make the rest of the West and even the East a little scared, because we all know the Avs could win the Cup. They did 2 years ago, and they're being led by Nathan MacKinnon, having another season that will put him is in the Hart race. The Avs are the best at scoring goals, and which has been led by previously mentioned Nathan MacKinnon. If I had to pick one positive, yeah, I'm going to go with Nathan MacKinnon. I didn't really want to, because it's not like this is new to the Avs, but this is probably... No, it is. It is MacKinnon's best season of his career. It was... I was going to say here's hoping that it's not the best to come, but... Because I'm partial to them, but I'm also an Oilers fan, so it's kind of like, yeah. But I'm sure a lot of Avs fans have been absolutely ecstatic with him this year. I'm not sure there's one who just... I don't know if there's one who's just hating it. I'm not sure. I haven't met every single Avs fan, but I assume they all love him. Not too much to really go over the Avs. Are they going to make the playoffs? Almost certainly, yes. Both Money Puck and Hockey Reference are giving them a 100% chance, even though they haven't clinched yet, like a lot of other teams here. And Cale Makar is awesome. Goaltending is doing all right. A little overplayed, as I've discussed before, but MacKinnon is MacKinnon. Next are the Jets, who have shown more worrying signs than some other teams that have 100% odds to make the playoffs. They're still going to make the playoffs, almost assuredly, but they've got a little red here. One in being able to score goals, which is a bit of a surprise considering who they have there, but it's not too concerning. But the other concern is that they're 4-5-1 in their last 10. You want to be feeling good going into the playoffs. It's better to get all these Blues out early. St. Louis Blues are going to be out before the playoffs. The dumb pun that I kind of stuttered on. But anyways, the Jets, there's going to be concerns there about, okay, well, are we going to be in form when playoffs come around? Who knows? But do you know who is going to be in form? And this is a positive, and it's Connor Hellebuyck. Again, I don't like choosing like super obvious positives, because it's like, well, yeah, I'm just going to pick the best player, but like, come on, it has to be Hellebuyck. Well, it could be Velarde. Could be that trade that they made with the Kings over the offseason. Really could be that. But Hellebuyck, man, that is the most important positive, especially when it comes to the playoffs, is goaltending. He has stolen a series before. I fully credit him entirely for sweeping the Oilers a couple years ago. I believe if Hellebuyck was just slightly worse, that the Oilers would have won that series. But they got swept because Hellebuyck stood on his head, his pinky, whatever you wanted him to stand on, even that thing too. But and he could very well do it again. He's been doing it a lot this season too. Not to diss the Jets' defense; they have a good defense, really good defense. But we all know it's Hellebuyck who's leading this team, and that's perfectly fine. Connors tend to do that. Speaking of Connors leading teams, let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers, who are 5-3-2 in their last 10, which is respectable. Obviously, you're always going to want more, especially for the numbers they put up. Yeah, I'm really happy with where the Oilers are right now, assuming it's getting better. And the biggest positive is their defense. Their defense is top 10. I know, I'm serious. I still see jokes about, man, it'd be really nice if the Oilers had a defense. They do. And I'm not just saying that because they throw six guys on there and call it defensive. No, they're very good on defense. They still do some things that just make me want to pull my hair out here and there. But generally, they are an extremely efficient group. They've taken really well to the defensive system that Woodcroft created at the beginning of the year, and that Knobloch and Paul Coffey, I left out Dave Manson's name under Woodcroft, but that Knobloch and Coffey have adjusted to their beliefs, which have evidently worked the vast majority of the time. So that is the big takeaway is that we are saying that the Oilers are top 10 defense unironically for the first time since you know what I I, I don't want to be like jinxing anything. I got some wood here I can knock on, but like this is probably the Oilers' best defense they've had since their last cup run in '06 when they had Pronger and Jason Smith and Steos and some other guys to mention. I can knock on wood, but it's also a low bar. The Oilers haven't had really a respectable defense since the end of that decade. But like, still, it's one. It's been a long time, and two, it's exciting to be an Oilers fan right now, and I'm grateful to be one. For now, I went through a lot of pain where I'd say, it'd be nice if I wasn't a Oilers fan, if I was maybe somewhere else. But right now, I'm very happy. Could be happier, sure, but I'm grateful. Next is the Predators, who are 8-0-2 in their last 10. It is arguably better than 9-1-0. They're just grasping at straws, I think, when it comes to arguing between those two. It's the same winning percentage. I just gave the Avs the nod because 9 wins is better than 8, but at the same time, getting a point in every single game in your last 10 is better than only 9 in your last 10. But 10 doesn't. Having a point streak in the last 10 doesn't do it for Nashville. I think they're at 17 now, a couple games past their previous record, which I believe came the same year that they went on a cup run. Not that they won the cup that year, but they got pretty dang close. It's okay. Sidney Crosby was in the way, which he tends to do. So, anyways, that is a big positive for the Predators. That's it. I mean, when I say that's it, that's not me saying that's all that's good. There's lots good. I love Philip Forsberg. Yossi is at his peak right now. Saros is making yet another second half of the season comeback for him, and I think that's to do with his heavy load, where he has a slow start and then gets into it. And part of it is because I think he's small. Okay, I'm turning this into a goalie discussion because I have a tendency to. You have to when Saros's height, even if you're a couple of inches taller, you have to be on your game at all times. It's very hard for a goalie to accidentally make saves when you're 5'11". He has to be near perfect at all times, and so I think that's why he has some slow starts, and so that once he gets into the groove, he becomes UC Saros again. I think it's taken a bit longer this year because he's had such a heavy workload. One of, if not the heaviest workload of goaltenders in the last few years. But anyways, that's just my little armchair analysis as someone who's played goalie on UC Saros. But anyways, Predators, they're making history, franchise history, and they could be they are considered a very dangerous wild card team. I think the playoffs will be really fun. I think we're going to have a fair share of upsets. So don't quite if you see a team get upset by an 8th seed or a 7th seed, don't quite laugh. Make sure your team makes it out first before you laugh, because you don't know, you could lose too. Heck, that team that beat that 8th seed that beat that team could beat yours too. The Kings did that and won the cup that way. Not saying that's what's going to happen now, but it has happened in NHL history. Next is the LA Kings, who have gone through their fair share of issues like the Edmonton Oilers, but they are getting into form as the playoffs reach near. They're 7-3-0 in their last 10. And I'm going to have to give their positive to their major focus, their positive to their goaltending. Cam Talbot and David Rittich I don't think a lot of people expected that duo to be so efficient and excellent, but here they are. They're doing great. And yeah, part of it has to do with the fact that the Kings have a very good defense that helps their game a lot. Sure, so maybe their numbers are a little uninflated, but it's important to have a confident goalie, especially going into the playoffs, because a confident goalie of any skill level is better than Connor Hellebuck being unconfident, or even Ken Dryden. All right, so that's into goalie psychology and that kind of stuff, as I just went through with Juuse Saros. So I think that is the big takeaway for the Kings, is that they have two very confident goaltenders. Granted, that can change as you go into the playoffs, especially if you play the Oilers again. Not to say the Oilers would crush them, because I don't want to like go out on a limb and say this and that. I do think the Oilers would win, but I'm not going to put the house on it or anything, because you never know. I just mentioned with Nashville, you don't know with wild cards, and heck, the Predators might not even be a wild card. They could replace the Jets. Actually, yeah, they are within striking distance of replacing the Jets as the third best team in their division, which means they would probably have to play the Colorado Avalanche, which maybe isn't the best case scenario for the Preds. Maybe they're playing the Stars. I don't think anybody wants to play anybody in the playoffs right now, and at least in the West. So, which is a good thing. Next, Vegas Golden Knights. It's probably a good sign. No, I'm not going to say that. But I wanted to talk about how the eighth seed in the West just happens to be the Stanley Cup uh, defenders. So while there's a lot of issues with Vegas going on right now, they have not as good as they used to be and all that kind of stuff. One, they're still probably going to make the playoffs. It's unlikely that St. Louis catches up to them, that Minnesota does, and the other teams are pretty dang near elimination, if not already eliminated. So, one, Vegas is almost certainly going to get in there, and we all know what they can do when they do get in there. They're probably going to have to deal with the Canucks, which might be their choice. They might be happy with that. They're not going to vocalize it because they don't want to jinx it or give the Canucks any power in that way. But the Golden Knights' positive here is not only they've had another great deadline, but that they are the Stanley Cup defenders. They've been here before. They can do it again, and they really want to do it again. You don't often see a team so hungry for the second one like Vegas does. It doesn't just come from a player standpoint. The owner, Bill Foley, wants it. As soon as he put that cup down, he was like, okay, when's number two? A little less energetic because he's quite up there in age, but yeah, Vegas. They're going to be good in the playoffs. I'd be very shocked if they're not. If they play the Oilers and they get swept, I'm not really going to complain too much. But yeah, nobody should underestimate them. I don't think anybody, at least any player, is, but we'll see. Moving on to the Blues, have been some disappointments there. The defense still has proven an issue for the Blues once again, despite fans clamoring for a change, and that's exemplified by the Blues' abysmal 44.8 Fenwick 4 percentage. Playoffs seem pretty much out of reach for the Blues, despite their 6-3-1 record in the last 10. But at the end of the day, we're still going to be positive here, and the positive is Kyrou's still a Blue after the whole booing him at home kind of thing, and the positive is that they still got these guys who can put together a run. Most importantly, Jordan Binnington, who has had a quietly amazing year this year. He's back and he's capable, and he seems to have a lot of things under control. It's good to be emotional as a goalie. I think it's very important to be emotional as a goalie, and if you wear it on your sleeve, I usually enjoy that, but you still got to control it. Not to say I don't, not to say that I control it all the time. I certainly didn't as a goalie. I racked up quite a few penalty minutes as a goalie, but still, it's good for Binnington that he's got things under control. That is my positive takeaway for the St. Louis Blues this year. Next is the Minnesota Wild. They're 6-1-3 in their last 10. Playoffs also seem out of reach for a team who's been in the playoffs for quite a few years now. So it is going to be disappointing, though I think a lot of Minnesota fans expected a first round exit, which they are very accustomed to. So maybe that's the positive that I should say is, hey, you're not going to get a first round exit this year. Woo! But jokes aside, that's not my focus. My focus is, the positive focus is something that I talked about in a video that I did about Bill Guerin when he was named USA's GM. USA's GM is that Minnesota's doing this with a lot less money than other teams are. Guerin has managed to build a very good team with a lot less money than other teams, and that's because there's a lot of dead cap for Parise and Ryan Suter. So that is a positive, and it's only a matter of time. I don't know how many years are left on that dead cap, but when it's off, Guerin's going to make some splashes, because by the time those contracts come off the dead cap, all of their young core are going to be well developed, well matured, and are going to be ready for some complementary pieces that could put the Wild past that first round barrier. And after that, who knows what's next, right? Next is Seattle. It's been yet another bad year. After a great second year, third year, they've kind of dropped down. They're 2-6-2 in the last 10 and are pretty much close to the elimination marker. They have most notably managed to not allow a lot of goals. Part of it is because teams don't need a lot of goals to beat Seattle, but the other part is the positive I'm going for is Joey Daccord. After having an excellent stint with their AHL team last year, Daccord has emerged as Seattle's answer as a starter, and hopefully a franchise starter in their case. He has just been absolutely excellent for the Seattle Kraken, and he's young, so he's going to be capable of this for a while. Fingers crossed for Kraken fans. Battery saver. I should be fine, but just in case, I'm going to grab my cord. As we move on to Calgary. Calgary Flames. Their positive came in the deadline video I did. And all the stuff they got from that, because I was pretty excited by it. I know some Calgary fans who were very disappointed with the on-ice product. They're 3-7-0 in the last 10, despite a lot of really impressive players on their team, and some really impressive players who aren't playing impressive. And I could talk about how well the season Markstrom's done, how Anderson's underperformed, or that Zari and Popis Missile are coming up the ranks, and all that and that. But that deadline haul was massive. Maybe they could have got a little more or a little less, yada, yada, yada. It was still a really good haul. So that is their positive. And that's not a bad positive. It's positive. Next is the Coyotes. Lots of negativity surrounding the Coyotes that I don't need to bring on. They are eliminated from playoffs, which is certainly disappointing considering how excellent their start is. And that's where my positive is. The fact that they were playing meaningful games up until that dreadful losing streak. But it took them a bit longer to be eliminated. If not for that dreadful losing streak, they might have been in the race for a few more weeks. But because of that dreadful losing streak where they lost over 10 straight, they got eliminated a little early. But they're 5-5 in the last 10. And the positive is that they won quite a fair amount earlier in the year because of the young core. Not because of older guys taking over or any of that, but because of young guys like Clayton Keller, Schmaltz, Logan Cooley, Connor Ingram, and most recently, Arizona born and bred and raised Josh Doan, son of legendary Coyotes and longtime captain Shane Doan. Josh Doan was born and raised, as I said, in Arizona. He played for the Phoenix Coyotes junior team. He played for Arizona State University, so he's used to the building that the Coyotes are playing in now. He played for the Tucson Roadrunners, where he led the AHL this year in goals by a rookie with 26, and now he has 2 goals in one game with the Arizona Coyotes, done right at home in front of a loud crowd of 4,600 people, which included his father, Shane Doan. So, in terms of the on-ice product, which we are focusing on, there's quite a lot of positivity for how good these young guys are going to be pretty soon. So big smiles for that in that term. Next is the Ducks, who are once again not as close to the playoffs as we thought, exemplified by the tied for league worst 1-8-1 record in their last 10. There's been times this year where they've looked worse than the Sharks and the Blackhawks, and times where they've been a bit better. If I had to pick one positive, I could pick positives in that they're young and all that kind of stuff, but we kind of looked at that last year like, well, at least they're young. I don't want to say that every year, but I am going to note a youthful person in that they have Cutter Gauthier. If you're a big Jamie Drysdale fan, this might not be such a huge positive for the Anaheim Ducks, but I think Ducks fans will be a Cutter Gauthier fan, as a lot of people who watched the USS junior team, including myself, became. So I think that was a really great pickup. If you're a fan of American forwards, young American forwards, the future of American forwards seems to be on the Ducks with Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, and now Cutter Gauthier, whose name almost escaped me after mentioning it like 3 times. So there's that positive, and they're young. I wanted to move away from that because I'm probably going to. No, I'm not going to mention it for these other 2 teams actually. Chicago Blackhawks. You'd probably expect me to mention their positive being, well, they're 6-4 and 4-0 in their last 10, which surprised me. I almost want to double check that. I've already double checked it. I might triple check it after this because why are they 6-4-0 in the last 10? But they played decently well, and I could talk about Connor Bedard as their positive because a lot of people are going to say when they look at Chicago Blackhawks and say, yeah, their positive is that they have Connor Bedard. Yeah, you're right. But I'm going to talk about Peter Mrazek. I've talked about him before, and I think twice, but he has been excellent. He's been their best player, and he has been quietly actually one of the league's best goalies, and could be argued as a top 10 goalie this year. Obviously, things change and all that kind of stuff. Mrazek's been a really good goalie before, and he's spent a lot of time as a goalie teams don't want starting. But this year, he has been amazing. He's the only reason that the goals against per game played for Chicago isn't bottom 3. It should be. It's not going to beat San Jose's really low number, but if it wasn't for Mrazek, it'd be 31st. But because of Mrazek, it's not 31st, it's 29th. Which, okay, 2 spots more, but come on, look at that defense. Don't tell me that shouldn't be 31st. Mrazek has been excellent. He's stolen wins for a team that really isn't capable of winning a lot. And Chicago has won quite a bit. They've won 6 in the last 10, assuming I'm right, because I keep doubting myself despite double checking, and maybe I double checked the wrong team or the wrong year. I don't know, but Chicago is still eking out wins, so it's not like their entire franchise have given up on life. They're just rebuilding, and Mrazek might be the starter for the next few years. His contract says so. Next is San Jose. This is kind of going to be tough for positives. I almost want to mention their alternate black jersey as a positive because I do really like it, and I like their home and away quite a bit. But I don't think that's really fair because there's a lot of negatives to discuss for the Sharks. I can't really say, well, at least they're young because it's not like a young guy's really taking over. There's some young guys who are making a name for themselves. I can't mention Klim Kostin. I love Klim Kostin. I'm glad he's doing well there. But is that really their best deadline acquisition? Is Klim Kostin, who's a 4th liner on a lot of other teams? Shouldn't be. Maybe it's the prospect they got from Vegas, but then that reminds you that the Sharks gave Vegas 2 picks in that trade. And Thomas Hertl. What the heck? There's lots of issues there that I think are getting worked out. They're getting a lot of money off the books and all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. And the Sharks have been accused of covering up a pretty nasty crime that I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say in public or on YouTube. But it's similar vein to what Chicago went through a year ago. But yeah, so not a positive for San Jose, but like Chicago, I'm going to talk about goal, and I'm going to still find a positive for the Sharks, and that, besides their uniform change, because I might be kind of a cop out, because I love the uniforms, but that's subjective, and that's Mackenzie Blackwood. I think he's done quite well for the Sharks, and Kaapo Kähkönen when he was there too. And Devin Cooley. So we're just going to make it all the goalies now, because Devin Cooley, he hasn't really been excellent hopefully yet. But he is a local kid. He's easy to cheer for when you got a local boy now. And I say that as an Oilers fan whose starting goalie is from Edmonton, born and raised, and all that kind of stuff. It's the mustache that I'm really cheering for, not the man, the mustache I'm cheering for. Anyways, Mackenzie Blackwood has done well for the Sharks. I'm kind of surprised he didn't really get traded, but I know the Devils didn't really want to trade for Blackwood again after having just traded him to the Sharks. It wouldn't be the first time that a team's done that, but yeah. So Blackwood is the positive light for the Sharks, and the other positive light is that the year is almost over, which is why we're discussing this. This is why we're discussing the playoff race, maybe a little later than usual, as there's not too much left to discuss, except for in the Eastern Conference video where we could say, well, Washington is probably going to steal. Well, actually, they already have stolen a spot. They are in a playoff spot now. It's still quite up for grabs. Whereas here in the West, it seems pretty solidified. Um, but yeah, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, tuning in, whether you're here for white noise or actual helpful information. I hope I provided either one of those, if not both. I'm certainly a white noise machine for the rest of my family, and I'm glad I could do that for you too. So that's it for now. Leave a like if you think I've earned it. Comment your thoughts. I'm happy to hear them. I'm happy to discuss with you in the comment section as well. And subscribe and turn on notifications for more. It's a huge help and boost of confidence for me, and knows that, hey, people like these videos. So, hey, tell your friends. You could do that too. I'd appreciate that, but maybe it's awkward. I don't know how you are with your friends. That's it. My mind's racing. It's 2:04 in the morning. I gotta be up in less than 8 hours. So I'll see you when I see you, which should be tomorrow night for the Oilers game against the Kings, where I'm sure I'll get a lot of emotions, really high up. Yeah, we'll see how we get there. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Thanks again. Have a good night or morning, wherever you're at in your day. It's nighttime here, so good night.